Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast from March 13th to March 19th of 2016. And on March 13th, we have the sun. You can see it denoted here by this black circle with a dot in it. It's in Pisces. It's also in the 36 hexagram. And on the outside of the wheel, we have the chop mark for the 36, numbered from bottom to top. The 36 goes yang, yin, yang, yin, yin, yin. And then the 36 hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here, this is the 36th gate of crisis, the darkening of the light, the rule of cycles in which decline is a natural but not enduring state, located in the solar plex center in an abstract collective energy path in the sensing circuit called the Channel of Transitoriness, a design of a jack of all trades that connects with the 35th gate of change. Progress by design. Progress cannot exist in a vacuum and is dependent on interaction. Now, I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on March 13th. The sun is in the 36th gate with the earth in the 6th gate. The north node is in the 47th gate with the south node in the 22nd gate. Mercury is in the 63rd gate. Venus is in the 55th gate. Mars is in the 34th gate. We've got Jupiter retrograde, and it's in the 47th gate along with the north node. Saturn is in the 5th gate. Uranus is in the 51st gate. Neptune is in the 37th gate, and Pluto is in the 54th gate. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And we begin the week with no channel definitions due to the transit field. March 13th begins with the sun in the first line of the 36. The sun in the 36-1 is resistance exalted, the energy and the energy and determination to persevere in the face of opposition, the emotional power to handle crisis, detriment and over-principled resistance that rather than being selective in resistance and thus less at risk, will maintain normal patterns and incur opposition, a resistance to change that will always bring crisis. Later on the 13th, the sun then moves into the second line of the 36, this shift happens at 1:16 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So for folks in different time zones, we've moved our clocks forward for the spring here in the United States. So Eastern Daylight Time. So the sun in the 36-2 is support, assistance to others in times of decline, exalted the application of imagination to schemes which benefit others, feelings that can benefit others in times of crisis, detriment the more practical and individual assistance, but only when unavoidable and not as a general principle, selective assistance in crisis. The 14th, the sun then moves into the third line of the 36, and this happens at 11:50 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 36-3 is transition, the point at which decline has exhausted its power, exalted the ability to establish a new order out of the ashes of the old, the emotional depth to endure crisis and embrace change, detriment of the tendency in renewal to try to assimilate the remains of the old order into the new, with the risk that it may rise against the new order once it has regained its strength. The embrace of change, but with feelings that will not let go of the past. Excuse me. On the 15th, the sun then moves into the fourth line of the 36, so up here in the opportunist line of the 36 hexagram, at 10:25 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 36.4 is described as espionage, exalted, the ability to prepare for, anticipate decline through the accumulation of secret or privileged information. The realization that knowledge, both covert and esoteric, is necessary if one is to be prepared for crisis and change. Detrimented, the tendency in recognizing the strengths of opposition to accept the inevitability of decline rather than resist, and to offer one's services to guarantee survival. The double agent, crisis knowledge that is available to others for a price. And also on the 15th, Mercury moves out of the 63, and it joins the South Node in the 22nd gate. As we talked about before, Mercury, of course, was the messenger of the gods. So this is communication, or Ross talked about it being expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music. So we have Mercury in the gate of openness, grace, a quality of behavior best suited in handling mundane and trivial situations. Mercury in the 22.1 is the second-class ticket, exalted the ability to accept and enjoy a subordinate position, the emotional awareness to enjoy a subordinate position, detrimented the inevitable humiliation that comes with claiming a first-class seat with a second-class ticket, where the emotional energy challenges the awareness and can result in humiliation socially. The 16th, the sun then moves into the fifth line, so up here in the heretical fifth line of the 36th hexagram at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 36.5 is described as the underground, exalted, perfected survival regardless of conditions, immunity to crisis as both generator and survivor, detrimented a nervousness that can lead to self-betrayal, self-betraying nervousness in times of crisis. And then also on the 16th, Venus moves out of the 55, and it joins Neptune in the 37. And in Venus in human design is about values, morality, natural law in which we deal with the others and the consequences of the world around us. Venus is in the 37th gate of friendship, the family, the manifestation, macro and microcosmically, of the organic nature of communities. Venus is exalted in the first line of the 37, the mother, father, a position of inherent respect that ensures a focus for the development of guidelines. Exalted harmony is the key to successful maintenance of relationships. It's only through harmony that the beauty and values of family can endure. Friendship that is rooted in sensitivity and ensures harmony. On the 17th, the sun moves into the sixth line of the 36 hexagram at 7:37 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And the sun is exalted in the sixth line of the 36 as justice, the inevitable survival of right, exalted the knowledge and attendant faith that powers of darkness eventually destroy themselves. For those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. The correctness of crisis when it arises out of pure feelings. Detrimented a profound sorrow and cynicism that is not diminished by the understanding that darkness is self-annihilating. The sorrow or cynicism that comes from seeing that despite the correctness of the feelings, there is always crisis. Excuse me. On the 18th, the sun then moves out of the 36. But earlier in the day, Mercury moves into the 36. So we're leaving the 36 gate behind, but Mercury has moved into there earlier in the day, and the sun moves into the 25 here at the G center. bringing us a definition that we had for quite a few months last year. We've got, and then the Earth also moves. It leaves the 6, and it moves into the 46. All right. So we've got the Earth is in the 46th gate of the determination of the self, pushing upwards, good fortune that may be perceived as a result of serendipity, but derives from effort and dedication. This shift happens at 6:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with the sun in the 25th gate of the spirit of the self, innocence, the perfection of action through uncontrived and spontaneous nature. The sun in the first line of the 25 is selflessness, motiveless action, exalted, the universalization of activity, psychic attunement, that is its own reward, the potential for centering through attunement to challenges, detriment, a tendency to publicize one's selflessness, the insecurity of the self maintained in times of challenge. And as we move from the 36 to the 25, we enter a gate that transitions from a Pisces to Aries. We leave behind crisis for innocence and the vessel of love. This begins the second grouping of hexagrams of the quarter of initiation. And each quarter begins with the Sphinx and the corresponding cross quarter at 15 degrees of the fixed astrology signs that mark the peak of the seasons with the pagan holidays of Imbolc, Beltane, Lammas, and Samhain. The midpoint of the quarter is marked by the vessel of love and the solstices and equinoxes, which mark the changing of seasons. The vessel of love is a container made up of the 4 gates of love. The 15th gate is the love of humanity and the love of the aura itself. It's the outside of the container of the vessel. The 46th gate is the gate is the love of the body, and it creates a form for the container. The 10th gate is the lip of the container, and everything pours out of the love of behavior, and what is poured out is the 25, which is it's the blood. It's universal love. In the design of forms, all inanimate objects have a G center with an open 25th gate, and universal love really does not differentiate between people or animals or objects. The vessel of love balances the hard driving energy of the Sphinx. With the sun's entrance into innocence, we have a few days where universal love is illuminated. Excuse me. And as I said before, also on the 18th, Mercury moves from the 22nd gate, leaving behind the south node, and into the 36th gate, where it joined the sun before the sun moved into the 25th gate. And retrograde Jupiter moves from the 47th gate, and it backs into the 64, which then brings this definition. Mercury, again, we talked about it being about communication, and it's in the 36th gate of crisis, the darkening of light, the rule of cycles in which decline is natural but not enduring change. In the first line of the 36, Mercury is in the line of resistance, exalted, the energy and determination to persevere in the face of opposition, the emotional power to handle crisis, detriment, the over-principled resistance that rather than being selective in resistance and thus less at risk, will maintain normal patterns and incur opposition, a resistance to change that will always bring crisis. Excuse me. And then Jupiter retrograde from the 47 back into the 64. So in the 47, it's left behind the North Node. And Jupiter is generalized law, and living by the law can bring great good fortune. And Jupiter is in the 64th gate of confusion before completion. Transition, like birth, requires a determined strength for the passage through. And Jupiter retrogrades back into the 6th line of the 64, which is victory. Exalted, the mental assuredness that it knew that victory was inevitable, thus making triumph sweet, and but not a reason for excess. The mental gift of enjoying confusion and its diversity of data. Detrimented, like the story of the Trojan horse, it can be dangerous to get carried away in celebration, lest one lose vigilance and perspective. Where all diversity of data, with all the diversity of data, it is easy to lose perspective. And with the Sun in the 25th gate and Uranus in the 51st gate, we've got the channel of initiation, a design of needing to be first until March 23rd, where we might experience some sort of leap into the unknown. This is an individual channel that empowers through the courage to take a chance on something unknown and deal with the consequences afterwards. Obviously, following your own strategy and authority will help you determine if this initiation is correct for you, or if faced with multiple possibilities to experience a quantum shift, which ones, if any, are correct for you. In the mundane world, we're likely to see people become more competitive, pushing the boundaries, getting outside of their comfort zones, which will be shocking to themselves and others as they feel the wonder of their own unique spirit. If you experience people acting unpredictable during this time period, recognize that it's a conditioning force that will eventually move on, but this could seem like folks are less in balance while experiencing this foreign energetic. And with the defined ego center, people without a defined heart center may feel like they have something to prove or want to improve or make promises or commitments that are not correct for them. And then the defined G center could influence folks without to obsess about where they're headed or where they're going to find love. And this is also individual circuitry, so it brings with it melancholy or blue feelings that are best used in some type of creative activity. And then with Jupiter in the 64 and the North Node in the 47, this brings us the channel of abstraction, a design of mental activity that mix with clarity until June 7th. Okay, so it's going to be defined for quite a while here, due to Jupiter being retrograde and the nodes also moving very slowly. So the energy of this channel is really about creating something new out of something old. This is about an abstract thought being brought into the collective consciousness through the arts, philosophy, history, and culture. This is really wonderful energy for telling stories about our experiences that inspire others, but could bring confusion when we try to resolve our own issues. The defined head center, could bring pressure to think about things that don't really matter. And then the defined Ajna center can influence people to believe that they're certain of something when they're not. On the 19th, the Sun moves into the second line of the 25th hexagram. This shift happening at 4:52 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Sun in the 25-2 is keynoted as the existentialist, devotion and dedication to the now, exalted, the perfection of intellect through concentration and focus on what is rather than what could be, the innocence of self and its protection that can only be maintained in the now. Detrimented, a dedication that is never free of personal motivation and its attended projections. The lack of innocence in the now that risks protection through projection. Okay, lack of innocence in the now that risks protection through projection. So anyway, thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be available on March 20th, 2016, should be available on the 19th, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, blog, or YouTube, and I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine, in the USA, or connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And as always, I am blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste and Lakesh. And as Ra would say, love yourself. All right, look forward to connecting with you in the future. All my best.